Boys Aaron Nettle and Stanley Scheinblum chopped off the arms, chopped off the legs, chopped off the head of a Hispanic man in Silver Spring, Maryland, burned his ass in a garbage can, and then then he fled to Israel. And Israel says that if you have dual citizenship, Israel is the only country in the world that will allow you to have a dual citizenship without repudiating your American citizenship. America only allows dual citizens of Israel not to repudiate their American citizenship to be an Israeli, or is it really? Also, Ghana has been trying to establish dual citizenship for you. 2 years ago, it passed the Ghana Parliament, and the bill has been sitting in the Congress for 2 years, hasn't even been called in committee. But the Israeli government has dictated that if his family, if his father was an Israeli or born in Israel, whatever is real, that the son does not have to come back to America to stand trial, because there's no law that an Israeli is bound to honor. And if this works, it will allow any Israeli to assassinate anyone, African, and escape to Israel and be free of punishment. That's like Crown Heights, sister, you right, because that boy got up and ran right on over there. And there's some deep shit involved in that. So right now, the little white boys from Montgomery County, Silver Spring, which is, just to give you an idea, this is Silver Spring, this area right at the top of the point of D.C., this area around here, Montgomery County. That's where the action went on. And then when they chopped the boy up, burned his ass, cut off his head, said that it was self-defense. You know, imagine you cut off one of his legs and shit, and he's limping around. He say, damn, I fear for my safety. Cut his other leg off. He's humming around on his nubs and his arm is still moving. So you cut his arm off and you say, damn, he got one arm left, nigga might kill me. You cut his other arm off and then you cut his head off. In fact, they haven't even found his head yet. Shit, before you know it, they'll be burning niggas up and cutting their heads off and shit in Virginia. Okay, anyway, that's the area. Just to give you an idea about that case. But it's significant because the white boys, and this is coming up, it's going to be tomorrow, or if it wasn't, it was today, that there's $76 million on the table about aid to Israel. So the little hick white boys in Maryland then got together and said, we going to fuck them, we going for it. And they have been deep on the TV in Maryland and Washington, because it all runs together, that they going for the Israelis. And this is interesting because the liberal community would never do it. The black community ain't in the history of the Black Caucus ever voted against aid to Israel except for Gus Savage. He come right here to the slave and to tell you about it. That's the only one ever. And Augustus Hawkins did it at the age of 83 in the last month of him being a congressman in defiance. He wanted to do one before he left. So the fact that these white boys have materialized is very important. I'm very impressed with the fact that they decided they're going to fight them some hunky of the Jewish religion. Now, that's deep. I like that. I like that shit. I like that shit. I like that. Anyway, okay, symbols. This is the symbol. Again, it's that go to Mindy's looking symbol. And it's the symbol around Anton LaVey's neck. But the symbol may be as indicative of the go to Mindy's or something evil, but when we look at this little clip from the churches of Europe, and you see that when you put those churches out, they form this symbol. The points of the churches will form that symbol. I don't know what all it means, but I think we better look at these churches around here and try to figure out if they're on some sort of satanic vault line. And these vault lines have certain miles between certain churches, and they're on certain type of hills, and they communicate and do certain type of ritual or satanic type of things. Grid lines, okay. So we're going to need to go there and understand that a little bit. For it could be excessively relevant. So now, and of course, you remember, so when you turn that symbol upside down, you get that picture of Yoda. I ain't going to waste your time doing that. Right? You see it? Okay. Now, but no, it's the point of it is that it's something they're all doing. I don't quite know. I'm a transer now. I'm running something to you. I'm looking through the opposition. I say, hey, every time they run left, the guard pulls in that level of degree. Now, I don't quite know what all that means, but something's going on here. And then when the Washington Post responding in that article about the Million Man March, this one, in responding to this article and putting this article out, they were making dialogue about comments that Minister Farrakhan had made when he spoke at the Million Man March. And this is a different article, but this is one of the few articles that addressed directly some of the things that the minister was saying. As when he first came to the first Million Man March, spoke in esoteric language to the secret societies that hover around Washington, and they responded and answered him. And that's where that 400,000 and all of that comes up, the number 4 and all of these interrelated things, how that becomes relevant. But in the story of which they showed that picture, and you can see that the person who did the illustration, David Cook of the Washington Post, and this is the way it's set up in the paper this way, that picture was denoting something. The picture was denoting something, trying to state that these symbols that the minister was talking about were somewhere over there between Union Station and U.S. Capitol. Now, on your front page of your yesterday's New York Times, you saw the picture from Union Station with the Knights of Columbus on the front. How many of you all saw that? Just say yes. You didn't see yesterday's New York Times with the Knights of Columbus on the cover, with Columbus statue in the background, them wearing their Knights of Columbus uniform? Y'all didn't see that? Don't you answer, Wayne. Where's the headquarters of the Knights of Columbus? What city? Columbus where? Huh? Columbus what? Georgia? No. I'm asking you. I'll tell you after I finish asking you. Huh? Where? Where is the headquarters of the Knights of Columbus? They got 320 feet above the ground. They have 23 stories tall, and they got 500 people working in it. Where is that at? Where? Ohio. Anybody ever heard of where's Skull and Bones located at? Where? Could it be up there? Huh? New Haven, Connecticut is the headquarters of the Knights of Columbus. And that's where the Skull and Bones is at. And what organization is set up on the tenets of Skull and Bones at Yale? The Boule. Thank you, sister. And so now we got this interconnection. This is part of why we're trying to weave this together to see if we can find what these connections are. Why are these things so seemingly interrelated? And I'm looking for something that I had in my hand to go to Mindy's. Anyway, we got it here. Anyway, now, this symbol denoting, trying to state that the person who didn't know what the go to Mindy's looked like would swear that was it right there. But actually, it's right there. But the key was when they put the map and put north going sideways. And of course, I've done this before. This is not news for those of you who've paid attention to it. That's not new. But the point of it is that they tried to hide where the symbol was. And it almost seemed stupid. I mean, why hide the symbol? And what is the headquarters for the world military? The Pentagon. Okay? So in the Kabbalah, I have a primer on the Kabbalah, in the Kabbalah primer, they talk about how you form a pentagon. And you could see it in different layers. You can see it, you put the golden Mendes in the middle. And from there you can make all the designs. But somehow that's golden Mendes connected. I don't quite understand it. Why it seems to be relative like that. What is the purpose of that symbol? And in fact, it looks like almost like home plate. In fact, what do they call a baseball? A diamond. Okay. Here's the Knights of Columbus headquarters up in New Haven, Connecticut. And they say something inside. You notice they got 9 squares in the corner. And that's relevant to our discussion about the Boule logo and stuff. And you can see something stupid here. It says there are 23 stories, rises 23 stories. Yeah, 320 feet tall. In fact, this is double tiers. I have to push it down. They're 320 feet above downtown New Haven. And it's 500 people working there. 5 and a 5 and another 5. And I don't even know why that would be worth putting in there. Must be something to it for them to want to do it. That's true. And let's see here. Let me go back. Okay. I need another folder here, and I think it might be, here we go. Yes, all right. Now, so, boy, I thought I left it. Yeah. Okay, so we're in New Haven, Connecticut. New Haven, Connecticut is the city of the 9 squares. The 9 squares are only relevant because we remember in our analysis of the Boule, they got the 9 squares in their logo. The 9 squares are down in between the, this is sigma, 9 squares pi, 9 squares phi. They want to be like Skull and Bones at Yale. Skull and Bones at Yale is in New Haven, Connecticut. New Haven, Connecticut is called the city of the 9 squares. And Brother Wayne is here from New Haven. We'll be up there on the 14th or 15th. Where will be in New Haven? The 15th of November. We'll be up there for a lecture talking about Skull and Bones and New Haven and the symbols and all of that. But it's the Boule logo that has those 9 squares in there. And those 9 squares are called the 9 chambers of the Kabbalah, where all the numbers in it add up to 15. What's 8 plus 1 plus 6? What's 8 plus 5 plus 2? What's 1 plus 5 plus 9? 8 plus 3 plus 4. All the way around. It's 15 everywhere. Equals 60. Thank you, Baba. All right? And so the concept is that somehow these whites are playing with this 9 square thing, which is called the 9 squares of Saturn. Saturn is the planet with the circle with a hole in it. Inside the Boule logo is a circle with a hole in it. Oh yeah, the Cassini thing is going on. That's got some deep stuff going on with it. And, sure, you're right. True. The outer ring. That's right. That's right. That's right. And so in the center of that 9 squares, what we're interested in. We're interested in what's in the center of the 9 squares and how it relates to the symbol that's used by Anton LaVey. And as we're interested in that symbol, as we go to the 9th square, and you remember, Brother Wayne, when we went to the real estate company, and the lady says, "Ooh, I think you all need this." She gave us a little brochure, which was called the Residence at the 9th Square. And then right next to that, I remember on your video, was the Square 9 Real Estate Company, with a square with a 9 going off of the 9th Square, looking real intriguing. So every time we tried to get in and around these things, The whites were handing us the information knowing that we were looking for it. This is the apartment building there, the residence at the 9th Square. And it was 9 stories tall with 9 blocks on the top of it. Again, so we're going to the middle square. This is the center of New Haven, Connecticut, what's called the 5 Square. And this is what we found. And we've gone through this before. And after I show you this, we're going to go to this videotape about the churches of Europe. Now, that's the center of the 9th Square of New Haven, Connecticut. And if you look at that center of the 9th Square carefully enough, you ought to be able to see the Goldamindis in there. Going across the top, if you go halfway, if you go to flagpole as the bottom, you look up, you see the Goldamindis across the top. Correct or not correct? The diamond is there. And in the center of the diamond is the flagpole, a tiered flagpole. Over to the left is where Yale is, up in this area over here. This is Yale up in all of there. And this is the key municipal buildings and federal buildings around New Haven are across there. What's the statue of that black man that's up there, brother, facing this, I think it's right over in here, facing into the area. Sincu. Sincu, right. The what? The Amstead. Okay. Okay. And obviously we need to take our lectures in the street, especially here in New York. I've never done this with you, taking that camera out and went around to certain things and translated those things from street corners to, in fact, maybe we'll plan that too. We'll set a date for maybe in the first week of December. It's always better even to do it when it's cold because people get out of your way in the cold weather. We did this one on December 22nd, and they was running from us. It was like 15 feet of snow. We was 56 black people jamming through the snow. White people was running from us and shit. But that was good because they all gave up the information as they could feel it's coming. Now, I want to take this off. Now I want to show you this tape. We'll let the tape that's in go right to that spot. I want to show you this piece from Holy Blood, Holy Grail that ran on Discovery about the layout of the churches of England. And now remember, keep that symbol in mind. Let's leave the light on till you're ready. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Well, let me sit down before I fall. That brother got courage.
American Express Small Business Services.
Okay, push the fast forward if you could a little bit. I don't have cable no more, so you can see, reception ain't no good no more. You ain't got cable. The way they got the TVs, huh? Right, they fix it so you have to buy cable if you want to get reception. Oh, it's heavy. They got it going on.
Mr. Luke Woodham's first killing, in which he writes that he killed his own dog. That was alleged his first killing. Now others will be have preliminary hearings later next week, October the 21st, when others, at least 6 of them, will have their preliminary hearings.
And it's so important, even Elijah Muhammad mentioned to the Muslims about not having dogs.
Two students there. As Jay Shaler reports, the school's assistant principal became a local hero.
Almost after the shootings, Assistant Principal Joel Myrick had
This is from what's being shown tonight on primetime.
the killer, Luke Woodham, had run for the school, and Myrick forced him to the ground and confronted him.
I could see his hands, and I looked, I didn't see any gun or anything. And at that point, I felt like I was in control, and I said, why?
He looked like a devil, too.
He said, as long as tonight, he said, I'm the one that gave you the discounted pizza the other night. I said, you just shot my kids. I said, why did you do that?
And you can see the full report from Jay Shaler on Primetime Live tonight at 10, 9 Central. Well,
It's probably on TV right now. Okay, press forward. Okay, here we go, right here. Yes.
Our ancestors. Even today we can sense the danger. The atomic bomb involves the fruit of secret knowledge which enabled the world war everyone. Some sorts of secret knowledge was handed down from generation to generation in craft guilds and secret societies. And we've already encountered one such secret society, the Priory of Zion, who claims to be the founding parent of the Knights Templar. Now, what exactly were their secrets?
Boule rituals based on the Knights of Templar.
known to be true. Let us turn our attention to the temporary, tangible remains, and let us begin as simply as possible. Near to Rennes-le-Château, as we know, there are two castles associated with the Templars. Each of them is perched upon a natural mountain peak.
Oops, that ain't gonna work. Okay.
And of course, Rennes-le-Château is itself on a mountain. Each visible from the other, these mountains form a fascinating triangle. The distance from Béziers to Rennes-le-Château is the same as the distance from Béziers to Blanche.
Oh, shit, now.
And the angles are significant. 36 degrees, 72 degrees, and 72.
72. How many stones on that pyramid on the dollar? 72. Thank you. What's the unspoken name of God? That's something to do with that 72.
Overlaid upon each other form a pentagon. And we are brought back to our only circle.
Oh, shit.
A triangle of mountain.
Uh-oh.
But what a...
Go to Mindy's time. Oh, shit.
And astonishingly, they also lie on the summits of natural mountains. 5 mountains of perfect symmetry, a gigantic pentagon, natural yet so geometrically perfect that the design seems almost conscious. The odds against finding 5 so exactly placed mountains are, like the hidden movements of Venus, literally astronomical. As above, so below. From the very moment
Where they stole that from?
the perfection of the pentagonal placing was first perceived, and we cannot yet know how far into the past that was. From that very moment, this place seems to have been recognized as a most sacred and holy site, a holy of holies. The very God-given perfection seems to have suggested to the possessors of the hidden knowledge, the priesthood, the initiated, that they should enclose their holy place within an invisible temple, whose very structure was dictated by the placing of the mountains. So extraordinary is this shape that it was regarded with awe and reverence by the ancients as a representation of the harmony of God's cosmos. The lines which form the sides of the pentacle
Turn that upside down, you get the golden
harmonious proportion which became known as the Golden Division.
Golden Division.
Here is this amazing star shape on the map. The mountains define fixed distances, such as from any point to its opposite intersection. And strangely, that precise measure also separates the churches of Rennes-le-Château and Rennes-les-Bains. This, of course, could be no more than an interesting coincidence. But look, the same precise distance. Coincidence when the same measure also separates the churches of Montserrat and Serres, Arc and Pérol, Arc and Terol, Terol and Saint-Salvaire, Antoniac and Mortaillard, Bourliège and Prune, of Laval and Saint-Just.
In fact, we might need to push this in the screen a little bit.
And the church of Esperanza.
Uh-oh.
No longer skilled, conscious, and intelligent. For the mere division of a fixed distance between structures, remarkable though that is but a tiny glimpse of the immense labour which was undertaken here. This church, in the village of Esperanza, is at a fixed distance from 4 other churches. They lie on the circumference of an immense circle, of which Esperanza Church is the centre. And amazingly, there is a further precision in their very placing on that circumference. This line defines the distance between Custosa and Granis, a distance chosen with meticulous care. Again, the mystic and magical pentagon, not this time formed by the gods out of the mountains, but consciously and carefully constructed by man. And for us, it is even more remarkable, for we have found the link between this Pyrenean marvel and that tiny island in the Baltic Sea. Bornholm is a small and defined area. The churches are not many. Yet look. 2 churches and a tiny outlying island will prove to form the controlling line which, incredible though it seems, fixes that same geometry. Here it is subtle and complex. In order to explain it clearly, we must approach this hidden wonder step by step.
Secret of the Templars will return on TLC.
Press forward. There's one more segment we need to get into the record.
Today's internet topic.
Now, I suggest that, especially I know in Washington, D.C., I remember when so-called Diana died, they had, I didn't know this, but the National Church of Washington is connected to the Anglican Church of England. And they have a black man that runs it. And when this Diana died, they ran over to him, and she had been there once before, and he had a memorial service for her at that church. But I never got the connection that that was a part of the Church of England. Somewhere here in Manhattan there's got to be a division of the Church of England. Who's the head of the Church of England? The Queen. That's some deep shit. Like King James Version of the Bible or something. Right. Okay, there we go.
Fensker and Rimsker. In this direction is the Church of Imsker. And in this, the Church of Prinsker. And they are both in a direct line through this same spot. More, the lines created by this hilltop of these churches intersect in an exact golden division relationship. The beauty of the geometric layout is truly remarkable. From the same point to the Church of Pulska is, with an incredible accuracy, the same as the distance to Ivska. And even more surprising, the distance between Pulska and Ivska is exactly half the distance between Ivska and Pulska. Here is one of the most interesting and important of the Bornholm churches. This is Österlas, a truly magnificent round church, so like the Templar round Capelli Meridian. Bornholm has 4 such round churches, and in this regard they are unique, not just on Bornholm, but in the whole of Denmark. They are special, and now we can give the sense how special they are. Österlas Church sits at the heart of the geometry, like a spider at the center of its web. On the other side of the island is another round church, Nylas. And Österlas and Nylas define a circle which has a Winsker church on its circumference. And this is how the church of Vestermarie is located. As a demonstration of the precision of measure which is being employed, this distance is exactly 1/4 of the circle's radius. And with a 6-sided star, Olskir church is fixed. Olskir is another of the beautiful round churches of Bornholm. Interestingly, historians have long been puzzled by the precise placing of this church. One would have expected it to have been built at the top of the hill. Why was it placed 150 meters down the hillside? But now we need no longer wonder. The geometric layout dictates its placing with superb accuracy. Later we shall find that this same point has other remarkable implications. Let's return to the geometry. Olskir church has indicated a hexagon, a 6-pointed star, and it is created in a beautiful and very elegant way by the very nature of a circle. Let us carry this powerful design back to Rangashak. Remember how 2 of the churches divided this circle into 5 and created a pentacle. But there are 2 more churches on this circle, and they mark out 6 divisions. And they give us the mystic seal of Solomon, as recognizable as the magician's pentacle, full of religious symbolism. And what are the original Holy of Holies? The mother pentacle of mountains. All is impeccably locked together, precisely placed, so that this line is exactly divided in two.
Okay, we can stop there.
Years ago, I had no idea how far I would be taken by what seemed to be a little.
I don't know what all that means. But obviously there's something geometric about the layout of their operations. And I'm suggesting that, especially in Washington, I'm going to do Washington for you, is that if you start taking the aerial maps and you find those churches, you better pull them rulers out and check them inches, because we may find that they may be laid out in a way that they may contain a deeper mystery, and that there'll be something that needs to be solved or resolved by peering through it. I don't quite understand all of that, but I just know something going on with the way those things are interrelated. Now, you mentioned that number 72. I used to do in the lecture a little thing about asking the Masons what does 72 mean. And they, of course, would never want to say, because 72 had something to do about the so-called unspoken name of God, that they used the word Yahweh. And I remember hearing a tape on my way up here of Dr. Ben, and he was talking about how the Yahweh, the first known mention of this word Yahweh, was in the 21st dynasty, long beyond many, many civilizations. And of course, it could not have been God, in that many things were made before the usage of the word. Then he went to the word Jesus. He went through these words to show the historical lateness of it all. So then, if these things are not the true words, then what then are they symbols of? Who, or as they say in God, they trust? What is this God or he that they're talking about? In the Dictionary of Symbols of Biederman, he talks about that hexagram, the two overlapping triangles. And then he mentions it in the use of the word most traditional, view his use of the tetragrammation, YHWH, Yahweh, the four-letter name of God, as having been the decisive factor. Because of its association with Solomon, the six-pointed star came to be known as Sigillium Salmonis, Solomon's seal, or Scrotum Davidus, or David's shield. And of course, you know that symbol is hidden up in the dollar bill. Is it correct? And I forget where it's at. Where is it at in the dollar bill? Huh? In the right-hand side. So, would it be something if the churches of Europe and the churches of America and all this stuff was all kind of zied on there together? They called the Star of Zion. And what the symbols mean inside of it. Just a white boy breaking down things for other white boys. But this unspoken dialogue. Now remember, we found that point where White said that that when they found that name and found out it wasn't their name, that they went and made to all members of the society, asked them never to utter the name. Now remember that number 400,000 that the whites used to describe the number of people at the first Million-Man March. And when you look at the number 4, you notice that it mentions in the Dictionary of Symbols, this is Cooper, that it could be symbolic of atonement. And it's kind of interesting. You got the 4 elements, of course. And of course, there's a fox. There's your Murdoch there, the transformer and shapeshifter. But that's a whole nother subject. I only want to draw into what these mean. We remember, of course, that on that number 15, that's the tallest building in Washington, and no building can be taller than it by legislation. I think it's the Height Allocation Act or something of 1910, something like that, that no building can be taller than the Then the Washington Monument. This one here is from Biederman again, Dictionary of Symbols. I'll show you the cover. The one before this was Cooper's book on symbolic and mythical animals. The other one was Biederman, Dictionary of Symbolism and Other Icons. That's this one here. Dictionary of Symbolism, Cultural Icons and Their Meaning by Hans Biederman. And there's another one up here that we use by Surlott. Here it is here. This one is by Surlott, one of the first ones that I use. And there's that design on this side, which is far more historic even in their context as they're using it. But that's on his cover, Dictionary of Symbols by J.E. Surlott, C-I-R-L-O-T. And that meant something to them very importantly. And it's alleged now as we look at this so-called name of God that in fact it probably was not the name of God anyway. It was the name of the imposter or the imposed one, the fake one, and that they so proudly used it. When we looked at this murder in October 1st in Pearl, Mississippi? We remember that in this so-called month of Yom Kippur and all of that, the atonement month is when you sacrifice a goat. And it's when you sacrifice or offer something up. And usually you burn it in your process of offering it up. And I don't know a whole lot about all this stuff, but I don't know, something going on. In the number 4, back of that 400,000, talk about that number 4, comes back to that Hebrew tetragrammation, transliterated YHWH or JHVH, often pronounced Yahweh or Jehovah. Although the devout Jew reveres the name too much to utter it. And it isn't that they revere the name, but knowing that the name was not their name, they never wanted another person to utter it. So they mysticized the name when they got to the bottom of it as not their name. And everyone that came behind them followed through on their rule or their laws. And I don't know what all that means, but something mean around here. And why all of that weaves together like that. As I was saying earlier about the demonization of nature, well, this is the word, the devil. Devil is the father of lies. That had to be the white man. These are added physical features of the goat: horns, legs, tail, making them resemble the Greek god of nature, Pan. So they would want nature to be the devil. That's a part of the demonization of nature, to make it the devil of the white man. Here, Pan, the Greek shepherd god from the mountains of Arcadia. The word panic is derived from his name. He was portrayed as with a hairy body and legs and horns of a goat, an embodiment of the life of mountain, caves, meadows. The Greeks erected a temple to Pan. It means all in Greek. And that goes back to the use of it in the black Greek societies as it became the Pan-Hellenic Council. And interestingly enough, there you see the 8 Greek undergraduate societies being named here, but that's a 90-degree angle. It's missing one name off of its point. And of course, it's the Boule, the godfather of them. And that tetragrammation comes up in those 9 squares are considered the tetragrammation. The 72 squares, or 7 and 2, is considered the tetragrammation. The hexagon has got something to do with the tetragrammation. The number 4 got something to do with the tetragrammation. And again, I don't understand it, but something going on here. We always did this definition of the word hell. And there, it's given a marginal description, but we always tried to deal with the concept of where did the white man come from? What is this deviation? And I even remember the first time coming here, raising this question about the word cave, hole and hole hell, cave and hell are related is not without significance. The fact that there was similarity between cave and hell, and are you known as the caveman? No, of course not. So whatever that caveman is, has to be related to something that must be evil. And that puts us in this difficult position. Because now, and I wouldn't want you to forget this one, back to the essence of the 9 squares and the logo of the boule, as containing inside of that urn the names of those people chosen to lead the state. And that we would never want to forget that about them. And again, back to those names of those people. I want to put another tape on about another group dealing in Satanism, satanic looking stuff. This is from, this is going to Skull and Bones. You know, Brother Wayne, after we went up to Skull and Bones with the camera, knocked on the door and all of that America's Journal went up there. And America's Journal went up there and shot the night of the ritual. And it's an interesting layout.
Men and federal judges. The best-known bonesman is ex-President George Bush, who, according to tradition, is supposed to avoid admitting he's a member, even when the question comes in the Oval Office.
Mr. President, are you member Skull and Bones?
American Journal got a similar response when we recently asked George Bush Jr.
Who's going to be the Republican nominee for president?
Does it still exist? The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
But the society is flourishing, as we discovered on the Yale campus in New Haven, Connecticut. Tonight, Skull and Bones conducts its initiation ceremony, one of the society's most secret rituals. For years, there have been rumors about the initiation, talk of bones and coffins and occult practices. But only the society's members really know what's going on deep inside this tomb right now. You're watching the first video ever broadcast of members being brought in for initiation. Watch as hoods are slipped over their heads. And what comes next? Legend says they take off their clothes, climb into a coffin, and reveal their sexual secrets. Did you have to climb naked into a coffin for your initiation back in 1960?
Last time I was naked was sprinting down the street somewhere. No, record that as the most unusual question I've ever been asked in my entire life. Did I have to climb naked into a coffin?
The governor never did answer our question. Senator Chafee denied the coffin story, but refused to describe his initiation.
Now let your imagination run wild, and that'll intrigue everybody.
Bonesmen also refused to talk about what's inside their mysterious mausoleum, but we cracked that wall of secrecy by following this man out of the shadowy tomb.
There was always a black man.
He turned out to be
everywhere.
Willie Melton, the society's cook. You ever seen any skulls in there?
I've had a slight look at some of them.
How many skulls have you seen?
I don't know, maybe 15, 20, 25 or so.
25 skulls?
Possibly.
Melton says some of the skulls are those of former members, and at least one other came from an Indian grave.
The fact that they were actually tampering with human remains was overwhelming, to say the least.
Ned Anderson, an Apache leader, says this is a picture taken inside the tomb, a picture of a skull belonging to the Indian warrior Geronimo. Anderson says the skull was dug up in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, by none other than bonesman Prescott Bush, George Bush's father. The society has denied possessing Geronimo's skull, but Anderson says bonesmen did admit having the skull of an Indian child.
Whether the remains belong to a 1-year-old person, a 10-year-old person, Geronimo's, whoever, it's still not right, it's still not good.
The most intense debate over the society concerns what the members do once they graduate from Yale. Many of them meet each summer on this private island in upstate New York. And they certainly do plenty of networking in the worlds of business and politics. For example, George Bush was sworn in as vice president by Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart, a bonesman. Bush then hired bonesman Christopher Buckley, Bill Buckley's son, as a speechwriter. As president, Bush even appointed a bonesman, Richard Moore, as his ambassador to Ireland. Connections like these have fueled conspiracy theories from right-wing extremists.
Some of their people who have stepped out of those coffins have become some of the most powerful people in the world.
Jack McLam, a former Phoenix police officer and leader of the so-called Patriot movement, offers an outlandish analysis of the Skull and Bones.
They do network together to control the economy, the educational system, the religions of the world, the politics of the world.
Are we plotting the destruction of the nation? Of course not. Nonsense.
But there's no doubt the society has produced an influential old boys club, a club which continues to grow along with the public's fascination about what really goes on behind their closed doors.
Fascinating. And we're also told that members wear a special gold and diamond pin at gatherings, but they are not allowed to wear it in public. It's also said they take the pins off for another reported Skull and Bones activity, naked mud wrestling.
Okay, rewind the
When we
tape
come
back
back,
to the very beginning.
can you identify this major star?
Where they walk in with the
Coming up, who is this famous Hollywood star? Don't know. Here's another. Still can't guess. We'll tell you.
We run that back to the front. I think it's just a little part in there. We run it overtly. That way we could look at that. There's a part here. Now, we knocked on this door, and didn't nobody open. And then I did this little Masonic knock. Somebody taught me knock, pause, knock. And shit, the girl came right to the door and opened it up. And we had turned away, and we had to run back up to the door. She closed it before we could get back in there. And I can show you that on videotape. This is a period in April when they had a ritual, April 15th. And interestingly about April 15 is they have 15 members on their line. They have $15,000 they give each member when they go over to become a full-fledged member. Their 15-carat diamond that they get, he's talking about that diamond pin, which is a 15-carat diamond, which should have to be heavy, 15 carats. That's a lot of money. And of course, that George Bush's son is one of the front runners to the Republican nomination for president. Clinton, of course, as the Rhodes Scholar, brought all of his secret society members in, the Secretary of Treasury, his advisors, right on down. Yeah, this is important. We didn't get this in the opening, and I just want to make sure we get this into the record. There we go. We want to see. Okay, now let's stop this now and catch this about 30 seconds that ran before I had it queued up.
It's not Halloween, just an April night on the campus of Yale University, but hooded figures fill the streets.
That means we can be there at the same time.
Tradition, the secret
if they're going to walk down the street like that, it wouldn't be hard for us to catch their ass.
One stands out as the most secret, the most elite,
watch this
the most powerful. It meets inside a building called the Tomb,
down that street,
a forbidding structure
the
guarded
British
by
government has an embassy right down the street
and an
from there.
elaborate security system.
Why it's in New Haven? It's in Sweden.
American Journal, we'd like to chat with you.
It's called the Skull and Bones Society, and members such as this alumnus we found lurking near the tomb
you can
don't
whip
like
his ass
chatting
if you
about
had
their
to.
society.
Look at that little
No, I was
cute
going to
spot.
talk with you. This is a private club.
A private club with a long and mysterious history dating back to 1832. Each year, Skull and Bones picks 15 of Yale's best and brightest juniors, now including women and minorities. They go on to spend their senior year as so-called bonesmen. Past members have ranged from President Taft to Secretary of War Stimson, and a more current membership list obtained by American Journal reads like who's who. Is it a bonesman secret? It includes politicians such as Senators John Chafee of Rhode Island and John Kerry of Massachusetts. Then there's Victor Ashe, the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, and columnist Bill Buckley. along with top businessmen and federal judges.
Okay,
the best-known bonesman is ex-President George Bush, who, according to tradition, is supposed to avoid admitting he's a member, even when the question comes in the Oval Office.
Mr. President, are you a member of Skull and Bones?
And of course, the Skull and Bones member can't answer. This is from the tape, The Oath Takers. And in the back of this Oath Takers tape, I went and I wanted to show the 9th floor of the Masonic Temple in Washington, George Washington Masonic Memorial. I think I may have stepped on something. It sounds like it's short in there a little bit. Might be in the corner. Okay. No, not on tape. But I can even speak to it. Look, now see, this is the apron, and the Knights of Templar area, they're showing these aprons. Now we're following up this Skull and Bones. Now you got Skull and Bones in New Haven. You got the Boule want to be like Skull and Bones. And now you got the Knights of Templar aprons and all these other things in the Masonic Temple. This is the White Temple. This is the George Washington Masonic Memorial. In fact, you can even turn the sound down off the tape. And this is in a case, and whenever I go, I had the people shoot this area because it's very important in finding these similarities between what they're saying and the things we've been trying to get to the bottom of. Now, this Moses at the Burning Bush is the logo of University of Kansas. And University of Kansas has a huge church that has a burning flame in a stained glass window with a 25-foot statue of Moses facing this particular stained glass window, right in the middle of the campus of University of Kansas, which has more Rhodes Scholars than any university in the country, including Harvard. They pride themselves at being the most international school in the Midwest. And on this same floor is where we come into these aprons of Skull and Bones. Then it goes up to the Knights of Templar floor, which has this black hand coming out of the sky with this little white-looking Jesus hand reaching up to this black hand. That would symbolically mean something very important to them. Okay, come on. Press it forward a little bit. Let's see if we can get to the spot. Okay, now, here we go. Okay, here's another. This is the apron case again. Shooting the symbolism on the aprons again. And now these churches of Europe and these symbols, I didn't see any Gold-Mendes in there, but it was a lot of Skull and Bone stuff. Now you see they got the swords crossing. Last known Knights of Templar, of course, was Jacques de Molay. Jacques de Molay is the name of the Masonic youth organization called the De Molays. And of course, Clinton is a De Molay. Now here's the triangle with the Skull and Bones inside. And now this is the stained glass window here with the white-looking Jesus reaching up to the black hand. And I asked the man, why was that hand black? He said, oh, that's God. You can say it, and if you hear the sound of the tape, you hear me ask him on the tape. I ask him on the tape, what is it? And he starts talking about Solomon. Now, this is the 9th floor. Now, this is what intrigued me. This is the top floor of the George Washington Masonic Memorial in Alexandria, Virginia. This is the 9th floor. There's that animal, the number 9, the Boule. The number 9 is the 9th floor of the White Masonic Temple, and we find that same guardian animal on their 9th floor as we see in the Boule logo. And what these animals are doing they're standing around a depiction of Solomon's temple. And then we remember back into that about the seal of Solomon and the impressions that they relay from that. Okay, push it forward a little bit because obviously I make the camera go back there to do something in the room. Okay, here we go. This is back to the hand again. I wanted them to freeze frame the hand. Now I'm down in Tallahassee, Florida. The guy says, Yeah, Bobby Hemmett, he told us about that. Jesus is standing on the mountain, and the hand reaches down from the mountain. And I said, well, I know about that. In fact, I told him about it, and here's the picture of it. As a matter of fact, and no, it ain't standing on a mountain, but the principle is that it's a white man, distinctively, reaching up to touch the hand of a black man or a woman distinctively. And it's in an all-white thing that has a handful of black members. And it must mean something to them. Now, you got the spoken word of God, you got the unspoken word of God. You've got God is the devil, and God we trust, which really is no word for God in the language of which they wrote it, so it's in he we trust. What is the he? What does H-E mean? Okay, a little press forward again. And let's go back up to that 9th floor, and we'll close that part off right there. Distinctively that black hand. And we're right on with the Solomon Temple. Get up there, Solomon's Temple. That was the best I could get the hand on there. Yeah, this is at the Arquette Center in Tallahassee, that's right. And Brother Doc, you know, is now head of the black psychologists. That's the Solomon Temple's depiction that they had that these Grecian sphinxes were standing around. In fact, I was at the Black Caucus. There was a brother up here from New York down there, and he said, a sister introduced me to him, and his name was Dunstan. He's the president of the National Black Social Workers. He said, man, my son has been in college 6 years fucking around with your tapes. You be telling them to leave school and stuff. You don't know how many of these parents that I hear from who tell me I give their children a hard time because there's conflict over sitting for the program, and then they want to impose the program on their families and their schoolwork and their loved ones, and there's resistance. There is resistance, and so it's interesting that we're in that level. We have clearly put the drama on the Boule children. They will not be able to count on them for reinforcements. We have cut them off. We have impressed their children with the fact that their parents may be involved in Satanism, because the Boule thing is really about Satanism. That was the bottom line to that. This is a depiction of the building of Solomon's Temple across a wall, a huge mural, and each little section of the picture is mutually exclusive to itself. It's like a picture with 20 different pictures inside of it. But this Boule thing appears to be satanic, and that those people who have gotten involved in it, when someone says, well, why this one or why that one, we need to ask them from a spiritual level, why would they participate in such an organization? We can turn that off. We can stop there. That 9th floor of those Grecian sphinxes, and that's the Boule logo. Before we run out of time, and I didn't know it was as late as it was, I want to make sure that I introduce to you a couple things I wouldn't want you to forget. There's a tape out there called Diana's Death, What's It to Us? In fact, in the tape, there's this a very important definition of what is a Diana. And Diana, in the Dictionary of Symbols, is an important word. And to describe or define that Diana would be important in the Dictionary of Symbols. If you remember, at the funeral, her brother said she was the goddess of the hunted. He said, isn't it ironic that she was named Diana? And he mentions the goddess of the hunted. And you would think white folks just be taking names because, ooh, Mary sound nice. But they take these names because they mean something to them. And I use this, I never used it for the word Diana, but in using the word devil, and notice that devil is the 15th mystery of the tarot deck, the number 15. 15 members on Skull and Bones, 15,000 when you get over, 15 members on the line, 15 the height of the National Monument, 15 is the sum of the numbers in the 9 squares, and 15 is the card of the devil in the tarot deck. And notice it brings up the word Knights of Templars. It's almost like Now remember, we watched the ancient mysteries of the Templars, and it made that go to Mendes across the churches. That's what the white boy's book was, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. The discussion of the Templars, and just in this side. And then it mentions the number 4, like the Greek Sphinx. It incorporates the 4 elements. What is the Greek Sphinx? It's talking in the context of the devil. The 15th card of the tarot deck is the devil. The Knights of Templar are connected with it. The he-goat, or the goat of Mendes, is a part of it. And like the Greek Sphinx, it incorporates the 4 elements. When we looked at the number 4, it talked about the word atonement. Now, I don't know what all of this means. But it's something meaning something together. Now the Greek Sphinx, remember this is a Greek Sphinx. See, remember he said, this is Sherlock's Dictionary of Symbols, like the Greek Sphinx. Well, when we didn't know what this was and we thought it was a griffin and a gargoyle, the Boule logo, Boule history book, page 29, written by Hobart Jarrett. Anybody know Hobart Jarrett? He's supposed to be like a professor emeritus at City Colleges of New York. He wrote the Boule history book number 2, 1996 edition. And in it, just again, I've read this to you 1,000 times, is that they call themselves the Greek Sphinx, the Grecian Sphinx. But we know that in the definition of the devil, it says like the Greek Sphinx. That's why I say this Boule thing is satanic. And notice they almost try to make 9 squares here, but they're not allowed to show you this. The only reason we know it's 9 squares there is that we went to the Boule convention, and the placemat showing Boule convention upstairs, Sister just took a picture of it. When we looked at the picture months after it was developed, we saw it was clearly 9 squares in there. And it was a picture we took in happenstance. Had 2 more frames left. We were walking out. Sister looks back, shoots it on a little bitty camera, and it turned out to be very, very significant. Founders of Sigma Pi Phi, the pen is modeled after the Grecian Sphinx, the most famous in Greek mythology being the Sphinx at Thebes. She had the head of a beautiful woman, the wings of a bird, the body of a lion, representing power, strength, and intelligence. The urn in the pen is guarded by the paw. The urn in the pen is guarded by the paw of the Sphinx, represents the container into which were placed the names of Greek citizens who would be chosen by lot to lead the state. What's in the urn? Right, the urn contains the names of the people who run stuff. But in that picture, they didn't put the urn the way the urn reads. Well, there you can't see that one because it was too dark. But I showed you that earlier urn picture. That what's really in that urn is the circle within a circle. And that circle within a circle is important because that's the format of the round table group. That's the format of those people who run the world. That's their format. Biederman, the female Sphinx of Greek tradition, has its origins in a fairy tale motif. This Sphinx is often winged, always female, a demon lurking at the side of the road. But demon is the word I'm looking for. Demon don't mean God. I think he's more like a demon. That's a demon right there. And in his book, he talks about the Greek word for demon means guardian animal. It's in the Satanic Bible. And it's very important that they all understand how those things work. I showed you 1,000 times. Manly Palmer Hall, he shows the same Grecian Sphinx. And he says that it deals with the sum of the number 9. The sum of the number 9 deals with the Grecian Sphinx. Ashwa Kwesi analyzed this as Lord of the landlords. So what is Flake and what is Towns? And in fact, they probably got big land deals going with their churches, don't they? This comes from the mysteries of the Kabbalah. But again, to remember, the key thing is if you figure out what this thing is doing, it's a guardian animal, it's compelled to self-destruct. Discovering one who knew the answer to her riddle, the Sphinx cast herself from the cliff which bordered the road and perished. Brother Steve, what you going to do with this boule? Well, if you reveal what it's making secret, it no longer has a purpose. It will be compelled to kill itself. The 9 squares again, very clearly, the magic square, the square of Saturn, the 9-lobe figure, in the Middle Ages it was referred to as the Kabbalah of the 9 chambers. Now, in some of the research I've done lately on the Boule, preparing to deal with, in particular, the alpha connection, and preparing for those things that I feel that are going wrong about those people coming forth, Tony Brown and the others. Even the young man Joe Von Butler is an alpha. And there's some more I would want out of him. This is Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Knights of Templar. And notice he's standing on the square. And de Molay, again, is the Masonic Youth Organization, standing burned at the stake in Paris. And you know that spot where the Diana accident was near an important symbolic symbol, the ark, where the tunnel, where everything took place, is very important. The black Greek thing as an offshoot of the white Greek thing, that's an offshoot of the German thing, that's an offshoot of the Middle Ages thing. Very important. Skull and Bones got its charter from Germany. If you go to the this book right here, the Secret Order, which is the larger version is this, America's Secret Establishment, an introduction into the Order of Skull and Bones at Yale and Sutton. And you go into that book, he has that page in that book where he shows that the charter of Skull and Bones came from Germany. And the German origins of the order, University of Ingolstadt, which was the last known location of the Illuminati, 1776. Now that man Schiller, Frederick Schiller, who the LaRoches follow, he was in on this stuff here. You know Frederick Schiller, the man who they always be talking about? Yeah. Anyway, so you got Skull and Bones coming from Germany. Then you got Charles Wesley in the Alpha History book, page 18 as a matter of fact, talking about the origin of the black Greek thing. And I've done this with you before. But again, what's important here, and this is to my friend Tony Brown, that your own history book, and he has in his book called Tony Brown Lies in Black and White, there's a section in there that deals with his love of the black Greeks. And he makes this historical misnomer about naming certain tribes of people who he called the first Greeks. But when those people were there, my son, they didn't call themselves Greeks. So if you want to describe the Greek thing as really being Greek people who were in Greece, black people who were really in Greece, and that's not going to wash. I've taken it to the best scholars. We are prepared to challenge you. And as the book comes, we're going to be deep on it. Relationships is asking Charles Wesley, where did black Greek things come from? Relationships may be noted with fraternal organizations and convocations of the Middle Ages and with the corps of German universities in the modern period. Now what's interesting was I bought a book on the man named Henry Callis. Who was Henry Callis? He's the founder of Alpha Phi Alpha, and they put a book out on Henry Callis. The deepest thing is that in his book, he talks about being anybody. Where was Alpha Phi Alpha started? What university? Cornell. And the interesting thing was that the president of Cornell University, White, Andre White, was one of the key early members of Skull and Bones in the 1800s. So now he's the president at Cornell, and in the book on Henry Callis, the founder of the Alphas, he says, when we thought about forming an organization, we went to the office of Andrew White and sat there and sat there and sat there until he taught us how to put it together. What does that mean to me? That means very clearly to me that the Alphas were brought forth by a man who was a Skull and Bones. And that we've already gone through all the other repetitious interconnections between all of these things coming forth, which I say very firmly and proudly, as I say towards them, is this is Satanism shit. This is some devil stuff. Notice how subtle this is. Look at that logo of FEMA and see if you don't see a crescent moon in there. You see that up in there with that diamond inside that circle? They got that little marginal crescent moon laying around there. Oh, I forgot to go back quickly to that definition. I took it off when I took off devil, but the definition of that word Diana, because it is relevant to the last little quick of this I need to do. And also, that number 72, that's on that square. This is Manly Palmer Hall's book, Secret Teachings of All Strike, The Secret Destiny of America. He has that discussion about that number 72. The 72 stones are the 72 arrangements of the tetragrammation, or the four-lettered name of God in Hebrew. These four letters can be combined in 72 combinations, resulting in what is called Shem Ham Forish, which represents in turn the laws, powers, and energies of nature by which the perfection of man is achieved. Of course, man cannot be perfect. That's a misnomer. You can't be man and be perfect, because that's part of being a man, is your imperfection as manifestation as a man. And that's part of what the Masonic societies do, is they do rituals to emulate the pursuit towards perfection. Diana. Diana, the goddess of the woods, related to nature in general and to fertility and wild animals. You know she was pregnant. In fact, I even saw Geraldo showed the little picture of her little pouch belly, which I had picked up from different pictures other than the one he used. She bears the Greek name Hecate, meaning she who succeeds from afar. And she is therefore linked with the, quote, accused hunter. A cursed hunter, such as Wu-Tan. Accompanied by dogs, she became a night huntress, hunted down at night. In turn, linked with the demons of the, what kind of cult is that? Chthonian. It has been pointed out that her characteristics vary with phases of the moon. Diana, Jana, Janus. That is why some mythological and emblematic designs show her as Hecate with 3 heads, a famous triform symbol which, like the trident or 3 heads of Cerberus, is the infernal inversion of the Trinitarian form of the upper world. According to DIEL, these threefold symbolic forms of the underworld allude also to the perversion of the 3 essential urges of man: conservation, reproduction, and spiritual evolution. If this is so, then Diana emphasizes the terrible aspects of a woman's nature. Nevertheless, because of her vows of virginity, which what Diana was, which is Charles's choice, he must choose this virgin, she was endowed with a morally good character, as opposed to that of Venus, which can be seen as Hippolytus of Euripides. Anyway, that's one of the definitions of a Diana. In that audio tape back there on Diana, what's it to us, is a deeper discussion. And what is it to us? Simply, anytime the remnants of British imperialism, the king and the queen, who colonized all of Africa every opportunity they could. Anytime there's inner rivalry, anytime there's competition, anytime there's mutual disrespect between partners, we want to magnify it, instigate it, articulate it, communicate it, because this unity amongst whites is in our interest. When the accident went down, did you notice how everybody said, well, there was in a Mercedes 600, Mercedes 600, Mercedes 600. Then Mercedes came out and said, the 600 don't crunch up. You can't crunch up no Mercedes 600. Then they switched it down to 280. Of course, they were supposed to be in the 600. They had switched sent the 600 one way, went out in the 280 another way. I was watching when the announcement first went out. First announcement said Diana was in an accident, but she's up and walking around. She has a thigh contusion. She has a broken arm. Check. Then there's the man that says when he got there, she said, leave me alone. Then there's the other doctor, somebody says she gave him a last message. Then they say she didn't give a last message. Then there's right now in today's Newsweek that the pictures that they took from the paparazzis show her face. In fact, I better just read it to you exactly the way it's written in today's Newsweek. It says that there she was in the car. In fact, it's up here, but I ain't even going to find it. That there she was, the pictures of the so-called paparazzis showing her face with no blood on it, showing her in the car with no blood on her face, looking totally undisturbed with her eyes open, face clear and wide. That's in the pictures taken by the spy-arazzis. Why do I use spy-arazzis? Because Michael Douglas said it best on NBC the morning or two after. He said, you know, the maitre d's, the hotel waiters, the hotel counter attendants, the motel people, the restaurant people are all paid money by these magazines to spot down celebrities. So it's celebrity Razzies. They follow them down. They chase them down. They hunt them. They keep up with them. How would you know Eddie Murphy put his hands in a transvestite's panties unless the spy-arazzis were there to tell? And that shit got something to do with it too, and that Kananan and all of that stuff got something to do with this. There's a whole lot of shit going on out here. And we being average, ordinary, clean people, we don't quite understand all of the decrepit nature of the rich and the powerful. But let's cheer them on. Let's hope them sicker. Let's hope them worser. Let's hope them more pathologically off base. And let's use that as a signal and a sign that something's afloat to our advantage. So there's all these discrepancies about what happened when they got to her car. Then there's the question of the old man. Let me say something about the Al-Fayed family. The Al-Fayed family had one really bad problem. They wanted to be white. And as most black people or people from Africa or other places who want to be white, they want white women. They want to be accepted in the white British way. They want to buy white department stores. Anytime you go to Pinkyville, there's trouble. Sergeant McKinney, who was just replaced, highest enlisted man in the military, got his 6 pinkies waiting to take him to trial next week. Pinky Land is not a good place for the black man. And so here's Al-Fayed family trying to get in with the whites, and he gets mad. So he pays all these white people, he pays much of the British government money to make him a citizen, make him a British. He wants to renounce his own citizenship. So I ain't got no love for the Al-Fayeds. When I speak up for them and the wrong that was done to them, it is not because they're a client or a supporter of the African community. I know not of one single person ever who ever heard or received anything from the Al-Fayed family to give us any indication that they were any more than misguided African people with a lot of money. Also, I want you to know, don't you forget this though, the 2 movies that they produced, that the Al-Fayed family produced, was FX1 and FX2. And one thing you know about the movie FX, it was about the recreating of an accident to make it look like someone was dead. The mafia man set up in a sophisticated scenario to look like he's dead so that he could live forever. Also, Diana's in the back seat of the car. They take 45 minutes to take her out of the car. They take an hour and 45 minutes to take her to the hospital. They passed 2 hospitals to get to the hospital they took her to. Went like 10 miles an hour to the hospital. In today's Newsweek, they say, well, that's all right because in France, they put doctors in the ambulances so you don't need to go to the hospital. Well, shit, why have a hospital when you can have ambulances, huh? Just have thousands of ambulances. Doctor home service. And so you know that there was those discrepancies when they first announced the injuries. Then there's this discussion about the time of, well, the time is pretty short, about who was in the tunnel with them. Well, and then now, of course, they've got it down to that they got the car out there, and we pretty much know that the car is there. There's not much discrepancy about the fact that the car was involved. the doctors. Watch all the stories, especially the Post did some interesting stories about the doctors, their last minutes of trying to save her. There's many, many, many discrepancies in these dialogues about the condition of the body when they received it. Very, very important. God bless the black family that was in the tunnel at the same time from Ohio. We've reached out for them. They said some very important things. Even that family, that white family that came back on the airplane and stood at the airport and gave an interview talking about how everybody stood around and stood around and stood around and stood around and did absolutely nothing to help the lady. Then there's that, well, when we got to the tunnel, and then everybody said, run, 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 and they started running out the tunnel as they admit they heard 2 explosions in the tunnel. So you got these initial pictures with her looking fine, then you got these next pictures where the doctor says her heart was ripped out of her chest. Well, what was the name of the movie with Lisa Bonet? What was it called? Angel Heart. And what did they do? They took the heart out, didn't they? Okay, that was a satanic movie. Robert De Niro and Lisa Bonet. Probably the only movie she ever made. And who else? Anyway, but something was up in there. I wouldn't want you to forget either about Al-Fayed bringing down the British government by paying them bribes and then revealing that they had been paid these bribes. And those 18-year reign of the conservative government was brought down by the fact that he made those revelations that he had paid them off. And that allowed the young labor leader to become the so-called head of Britain. I thought that was excessively intriguing, that he was very proud of the fact that he brought down the government. And of course, I'm sure the whites were very proud that they imposed revenge on them. Never let me catch you call them the king or the queen. They are the so-called king and the so-called queen. I remember when the so-called queen came to Baltimore and the black lady went up and hugged her. And she went immediately in the room and took her clothes off, every stitch of it, because no black person is allowed to touch the stanky white bitch, the queen. Now, they just took a brother off the radio in Washington, Brother Jesse McDade, who's been on 12 years on the Pacifica public, the racist Gestapo public radio station. And he called Diana a slut. And they took him off the air. But see right there, she's the essential urges of man. She emphasizes the terrible aspect of woman's nature. So the point of it is that we're trying to defend him. We have a rally in Washington tomorrow night to defend Brother McDade, to get him back on the air. There's much going on in Washington in terms of stripping people down and taking things away from them, and putting them in a big disadvantage. That would really make it excessively bad for all of us. White people are going through great expenses to defend things that are indefensible. All them airplanes went down. They still want to defend the airplanes. They lost a bunch of money messing with that mere spacecraft. They still want to do more spacecraft. They have made sure that they want to support all the things that are white that are going down. They're going to stand there and they're going to support them to the end. And we want to help them support those things that are going nowhere. It's all very important to us. I got a lot of other stuff up here. I'm not going to waste any more of your time tonight trying to get to the bottom of it. But there's a lot going on, Africans. This thing is getting really scary. I did not like what I saw happen up here in results of the election. And kind of like if you vote another day after watching that last one, no longer would I call them sick. You would be the sick one. And it's hard. It's hard to stand in front of a people who believe they have nothing to work with, who have tried not the way of working it right, to say don't vote, because you can get 100 arguments with niggas over, you gotta vote, you got to vote, you got to vote. And of course, in reality, that may not be the best way to get the things that you're looking for. Force in an organized way with specific targets may enhance our capability. But of course, we meet great resistance. This is one of the few places in New York I know where I'm welcome. I'm always pleased to be here with you. I know this was a bad night for people to want to come out, and I know it would be rough trying to do it. but we have to share the information. If I thought about the best thing I could say about sharing these things with you tonight was to try to get towards the Satanism thing. I had a whole thing up here about special message to Jesse Jackson and all of these extra information I found related to the King assassination, like what's in Pepper's book about friendlies will not be wearing ties. I got film showing down in the background footage around the Lorraine Motel with Jesse giving a press conference with everybody else, no one else around from the staff, and all of the 3 people with Jesse got on turtlenecks. And since the briefing with the Fed says, don't shoot anybody without a tie, that was very important. I got an interview that we took with Hosea Williams down in Atlanta, where we showed Hosea this footage that we picked up, all background footage, things never been discussed in the public before around the King assassination, footage that we picked out, me and my little brothers, we picked out, and then we started showing this footage to the people who were there, and we have found some deep, deep, deep things. It's something so delicate and so precise that you have to spend a whole time on it. And I don't even have any tape out there to sell with it on it. It might even be an audio, 1 or 2 audios, but the videos are gone. In Cincinnati, I spent a lot of time trying to get at Jesse Jackson because he's very strong there, and his people control the radio. There are a lot of the social activism in Ohio, and they're behind the person. In fact, who's the recently named Special Ambassador to Africa? Now, you see, that should make all black nationalists mad. If you believe in Africa, if you believe in trying to make something happen, they put him in charge of bringing democracy to Africa. And the insult is that in many cases, I remember in our own neighborhood in Chicago, when we stood up for Africa, he said, nigga, you need to get a job, or nigga, you need to go fight for the grocery store, or, nigga, you need to go do this. And now here's this nigga over in Africa as the man for Africa, special envoy for Africa for Clinton. And it's something very, very deeply, deeply wrong about that. And when I keep going back at him and going back at him, people say, why you keep fucking with him? Why you keep fucking? Because y'all keep loving him. Y'all keep allowing him to walk safely in the neighborhood. Pressure needs to be put on that man in a way so unbearable that he would be ashamed to show himself in public around African people. But it can only be done factually, it must be done forcefully, and then you got to start doing like the white people of the Jewish religion. Put the pressure on those other people around them. You can let him stand in the middle. Put the pressure on those around him to not make it safe for him to be around. And Sharpton brings him around a lot. He likes Jesse Jackson. He looks up to Jesse Jackson a lot. And that's not good because I know he respects him more than he respects me. And I've sacrificed for the right to be the brother that I am. My teeth all falling out. I have to stand here in front of you half looking like I would want to because I'd rather spend money on what I'm doing than spend money on myself. And what happens to the people who sacrifice to do their work, and then the people who whore and fuck and sell the people out every opportunity, they get exalted. You can get $250,000 book deals, you can be on radio, you can be on TV, you will be honored by the people who swear they don't like you. And that's really true, and that hurts probably more than any of it, that we still give honor to that which we claim is not true to us. So where and when is the time when we can go to a court and take a grievance about someone else in our community who's overdoing things on behalf of whites and have some sort of ruling issued? I'd submit to a court with Camille Yarborough on it and this brother and Elder Maddox and other people around and Elder Grandfather, people who could look at information in a sound way, render a decision or a conclusion, and that we act off of those things. We have no court of last resort to deal with discrepancies and differences between brothers and sisters. Of course we will have discrepancies and differences with the whites. Interestingly enough, in Foreign Affairs, the latest issue is an article on Samuel Huntington. The interesting thing about Huntington's article is about the declining of national interest. He says there would never have been a bombing of Oklahoma if we were still fighting the Soviet Union. America without an enemy is like a boat without a rudder or a plan or a navigational chart. Meaning that America's in trouble now because it has no direct focus on an enemy, so America starts to eat its own tail. And so what happened, that's very important. And then he said, well, what will we do? Who will we get? Well, he said, well, you know, there's always terrorism, and there's always Islam, and there's always, he's bringing up all these things that would be good surplants to be the enemy in lieu of the Russian. But the key thing is, it's very important, he says, a country or people have a hard time organizing without a clear-cut enemy. Who is our enemy? It's more complicated than that, and that's the problem. No question, and there's institutions and there's organizations, but there must be conclusions. on whoever that is, so we can prevent making these stupid mistakes. I'll be standing here lecturing on the same shit over and over and over again, as we still be stuck in the same shit over and over and over again. And we keep getting fucked by this leadership. And I'm going to close here. I'm going to say again like the chess game. And this is in Revolution 101. This is back in 92. It's 5 years ago. The discussion was that the war is like a chess game. In chess, there are 3 phases: an opening, a middle, and an end game. Pawns link together. In the beginning of the game, pawns link together, controlling a strategic aspect of the board. In the middle of the game, that's the opening. In the mid-game, we trade away the leadership. We trade away the rooks for knights. We trade away knights for bishops. We trade away bishops for bishops, knights for knights, rooks for rook. I trade the queen for the queen. We trade away the leadership in the mid-game. Why? Because the leadership has never looked out for the pawns. The pawns had to link together on their own because the leadership never wanted a pawn to be linked together because the leadership couldn't make money if the pawns were united. So the pawns are always broken apart, sent alone, off on journeys, by themselves, never to accomplish. Pawns get left alone. Look at all Max gave up. I so much about this brother that's in me. The brother gave up everything he ever spent his life to work for to be true to what he meant. Everybody else ran back in the house. Very important. And people are scared of this brother. People are scared of this brother. They don't want him in certain rooms. They don't want to tell him certain things. They don't want to do things around him or in his presence or with his knowledge of it. But they know him as a person to sacrifice for what he believes in, and that's a rare commodity, and that needs to be a $250,000 book deal about a person who didn't give in when weaker people tried to force him to. That's very, very important for all of us. Anyway, I won't take up no more of your time. I appreciate you, United African Movement. Why do preachers go into politics in the first damn place? They haven't even dealt clearly with impressing us with the God question, let alone that they become politicians. But then again, maybe that ain't God after all, and maybe the devil and politics and all of that go together. Anyway, I don't know. Oh, this is a drawing. I'm going to present automatic with this drawing. Can you get this, Minister Brown, in the camera? This is a drawing. You're going to see that white man's best friend. It's a picture of the boule we had drawn up with a white man holding him like a dog on a leash. And we're going to start putting the boule names into the flyer, on the flyer, so you'll see this floating around with the boule names on it, white man's best friend. Anyway, just a side thought. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Steve Coker, let's give him a warm round of applause. Brother Steve Coakley, thank you very much, my brother. Thank you. Asante Sana. Let us all hold hands. While y'all holding hands, I want y'all to pick the person's pocket next to you. And whatever you find in it, please drop it in the container as you leave. We won't be mad tonight if you decide that you want to add to it, believe me. We're looking at a beautiful circle here. Well, I reckon, is that to tell us that we all need to be in a circle? That's what this is, Camille? Does this mean that we should be all in a circle? That's what it means? Oh, y'all want to be in a circle? Everybody want? Robbed of our names, our languages, our cultures, our religions, our womanhood, our manhood, our sisterhood, our brotherhood, our motherhood, our fatherhood, our selfhood, our nationhood, and our self-respect. But we shall rise, never to fall again. Up, ye mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Hug the person again and tell them you really love them. I hope you're around somebody you really love and want to hug all night. Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, is there a tape? Is there a tape in the machine? A tape. All right, you'll take it, Steve. All right.
I just got to get back. Here you go. I haven't seen it, but I hear it's real dramatic. I better grab it.
On